Jai, thanks very much for talking to us today. One of the big things that we want to keep examining, in Geneva Push to begin with and entire network is how successful it is in what we're doing. Church planning has been a favoured topic, for many people in many church circles. Oh, it's almost like you guys are a whole new brand of rock stars sometime. And I know that there's real work involved. I know that it doesn't feel like that. But people are also asking the question, how effective is it? Is it really the way forward? And you've got a church that's been going for 2 to 3 years now. You're on your third year, Mark? Yeah.
Yeah. So just into our fourth year now.
Into your
Yep,
fourth
they've
year
been
now.
in town.
So
Yeah.
help us understand, what's your approach to the congregation, and how has it changed, say, over the last 4 years or so since you planted?
Sure, yep. So, for us, planting was me and my family moving up to Mackay, and so we came at the start of 2011. We had just a handful of contacts at that stage, so first 6 months, it was 7 adults and 5 kids, including my family. And so we launched at a library, a meeting room in a library, had sort of 20-ish people, I guess, coming by the end of that year, kept going there for a while, and then started last year, we moved to a high school, high school hall. And so that's been a good move for us. And at the moment, we're having up to 50 people come along on a good Sunday in terms of attendance, probably 40 adults, 10 kids, that sort of ratio.
So how would you describe the growth that's taken place? How would you categorise it? And where are these people coming from?
Sure. Yep, so I guess the different groups that we've got at church, we've got a bunch of guys who have moved from partner churches in Brisbane or various places around the state, and so they've known about us through those networks. A lot of them are guys who are at university churches, and they've been looking for a regional place to go and work, and so they're knowing that the church has been in Mackay, the church plant, they've come up to join us as workers on the ground, so that's been exciting. We've had a proportion of people at church who just moved to town, they're Christians, they're looking for a church, they've found us as well. And then there's another group who I guess have moved to town, they might have tried a few churches and haven't really stuck anywhere, and have had periods of not going to church, a period of not going to church. They've heard about Make, and they've kind of come along and kind of re-engaged with church, and joined up with us, and so that's been really exciting to see. And I guess the final group is those who are, I guess, either struggling with their faith or those who just aren't Christians at all, who are coming along on a Sunday to hear things. We've had non-Christians coming along to our Bible study groups as well, and tried to run Christianity Explored courses and that sort of thing as well during our time up here. So there's sort of people from each of those different groupings in and around what we're doing at church at the moment. So
It's interesting because as you're talking about the breakup of your church, you've mentioned the concept of distance and people coming into Mackay a number of times. Is that one of the key pressures associated with Mackay? Does it have a transient population? Does it have people sort of moving in for a while and moving out again?
yeah, sure. So, yeah, it's a highly transient place. Really, it's the population base is built on the mining, which happens, and miners in particular are highly transient. They'll come and work for a couple of years and then move off somewhere else, or even working for the one company can just get shifted here and there every 2 or 3 months. So, yeah, definitely a transient place, although a lot of the people, I guess, who have connected with us at church are kind of the associated industries. Either they're working in town as electricians or doing the mining sort of stuff, but in town sort of servicing the mines, or then you've got your doctors, nurses, teachers, all those sort of guys, policemen, ambos. So, yeah, it's a bit of a range. But no, it is definitely a transient place.
So I take it that would also be a factor that would make it difficult to build a congregation if you've got people who are coming and you put effort into a new person. I don't want to suggest that you go, oh my goodness, this is a minor, I won't bother talking to this guy or anything like that. But you can put effort into people and know that effort may not be a long-term sort of connection. Are there other pressures associated with Mackay in particular?
Yeah. I guess it's interesting, that factor, because it is a nice place to live. For some of these young guys who are moving up, yes, it could just be a 2 or 3 year stint, which is all their contracts are for. But at the same time, if life works for them and church is kind of part of that picture as well, then potentially they could be here long term. So I've already had a few guys who have started buying houses, kind of really settling down, married, kids, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's not completely transient in that sense. There is the potential, I guess, and I guess as we've planted, like kind of the 10-year vision that I had was, to be actually reaching out to the miners, the guys in the mines themselves, or even the guys who are driving in and out to the mines. Really hard group of people to reach out to with the gospel. And so I guess moving up here sort of saw that we need to establish a good base in town, sort of a healthy church, and I guess have a bit of a financial base to be able to then sow into the mining, which is probably never going to have any kind of financial benefit associated with it, but a lot of benefit for the kingdom. So that's kind of what we're building towards, and that's, I guess, partly what we see our mission field is longer term. Yeah.
Now, church planting was obviously an integral approach. There are many approaches you could have made to evangelising these communities, but church planting was the one you chose. You still feel strongly convicted about the idea of church planting being the way to achieve this? And what does church planting actually give you that maybe, I don't know, some support ministry or something like that might not?
Sure. I think probably one of the things that springs to mind in terms of the benefits of church planting is, I guess, just that reality of realising that every person, not just the person who's kind of crossed from being not a Christian to becoming a Christian, every person's on a journey with Jesus. There's some point along that road. Some people have become Christians, but they're not really kind of hooked into church heaps or don't see that as a high priority. Others have kind of seen that as a priority, but maybe not been heaps involved in serving or using the gifts that God's given them before. And so at each point you're trying to help people in that journey with Christ. And so on one level it's a bit of an artificial, category distinction to make. On one level, to just say we're only reaching out to those who are not Christians. I mean, in the end, every person is walking on a journey, and we want to encourage them to keep following Christ wherever they're at on that journey. And I think church planting does really give you the avenue to help people at each part along that process. And so I think that's a really beneficial thing, and particularly, as God saves us into a relationship with Himself, He also does save us into a family, those who are in Christ, brothers and sisters, and so I think church planting takes that seriously as well. Yeah.
Look, I guess one of the issues that's facing ministers in every form of context across Australia today is is in some way trying to, under God, find a way of arresting the decline of the growth of the church in Australia. Do you see church planting playing an integral role in that? I mean, how does church planting actually work with that?
Yeah. I do think it is really healthy for that, in the sense that, I guess when you're planning a church, I mean, we started just our family. You're just scampering to try and gather people, and I think there's a healthiness to that because it means you've got to. What we're doing it is just preaching the gospel and trying to help people mature in Jesus. But there's I guess a lot of barriers for people that there can be. There's been a lot of things that we've had to learn along the way to continue gathering people, just learning about our culture, our context, and I think the fact that we are church planning's forced us to go harder after that, as opposed to if everything's already ticking along, there's a good group of people there. There's not that same kind of pressure to get out there and really work hard with maybe the guys who are a bit more on the fringe of things with church.
I guess you're actually raising a really important point, because it's not simply the idea of going and planting a congregation in a place where a congregation might be needed, but you're talking about planting a type of congregation. You're talking about a culture, a congregation that is in fact actually, what would you say, like outward looking, or it's got to have a particular desire, I guess.
There's so many different aspects to culture as a church. We've been working through various things with our kind of leaders in training at church this year, even just basic things like having a culture of talking about Jesus with our Christian friends after church, let alone talking to those who aren't yet Christians. So trying to make that our culture, trying to have a culture of prayer developed. And I think specifically in terms of mission, there's just a lot of things that I think even guys who have been going along to church for a lot of years often haven't kind of thought through or haven't actually put into practice in their lives. There's the basic things of having non-Christian friends and being hospitable towards them and just creating the opportunity to be living your life in front of Christians. But then there's I guess, thinking through as a church, how can we actually work together for the sake of mission? I think that's probably something that we've still got ahead of us. We're working away at that, but in terms of setting culture as a church, I think often we can think very individualistically as Christians, that I just work with my Christian friend, and to even trust others at church to have interaction with them, that can be there can be a bit of a barrier there. That can be a challenge.
I agree. And so
Yeah.
I guess, from the Australian perspective, we don't just need more churches, and we don't just need churches that are outward looking, but churches that are actually looking beyond, to try and expand into new areas. I mean, it's not a matter of just, say, planting a new church; it's planting a mission-minded church, which will hopefully plant more mission-minded churches.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I guess some of the things we've picked up from Geneva conferences, which has been really helpful, is just to, I guess, realise the reality that, I don't know, to grow churches, the big thing you need is leaders, those who can actually look outside themselves, look out for others, lead others towards following Christ and godliness and that sort of thing. I guess you can't just keep grabbing leaders from the outside. In the end, you've got to see that the people who are at church with us, here's the leaders. And so we've got to try and think through how can we multiply what we're doing, multiplying the leaders, multiplying everything that we're doing, having that mentality of just not just doing the jobs that need doing, but how can I bring someone else with me and train them and then pass it on to them and keep that process going. So there's a lot of culture things to work at.
No, Jai, thank you very much for your time today, and we'll be praying for you as you guys actually do, move out into that work and try and make that sort of church that trains up and sends out more people. And we wish you all the best too with mining work too. That sounds like tough work, but otherwise, it's great to hear from you, and we look forward to hearing from you sometime in the future.
Great, thanks, Mark.